Good morning, everyone, and very welcome to this webinar regarding simplified master data handling using advanced analytics and machine learning. My name is Marie Berg, and I'm Senior Director in Itellian Sweden. Today, we will present for you how master data management in SAP can look like in an automated and simplified way with strong governance. How to use new technology like machine learning and AI when you implement your IT MDS to get an in-depth visibility of business processes. If you have questions during this session, you can write them in the chat or ask them during the question time in the end of the session. My colleagues in Denmark, Bo and Lars, they will later introduce themselves, has a long experience of master data handling in a simplified way. We have more than 100 customers using the solution. I really hope you will enjoy this session. I'm now handing over to Bo.
Thank you very much, Marie, and thank you very much to everybody to get the opportunity to share how we have decided to handle master data in an SAP environment. My name is Bo Andersen. As Marie said, I'm global sales responsible for the solution. I've been with Itellians for more than 10 years. I've worked with this area here of master data and selling that globally since the last 8 years. Maybe a few words from you, Lars.
Yes, hi, my name is Lars, and I am a ITMDS senior consultant. Been working with it for 4 years, and I'll be the one demoing the product of IT.MDS, as well as showing you our latest features regarding artificial intelligence and machine learning.
Fantastic. So let's move on. And as Marie said, you'll get the opportunity to ask questions at the end, but during the session, please ask them in the chat. So we'll move on. Okay, with the solution, we've been on the market since 2007, and we have more than 100 customers. In fact, it's more than 120 customers. So for whom will this make sense? It will make sense for more or less everyone in an SAP of SAP customers out there. Where we've had the most activities going on is in discrete manufacturing, process industry, and farm industry. Yes, as I mentioned before, we have sold this in many countries around the world. The majority in Europe, Germany, a lot in the US, we're highly spread around in the world, as well as delivery of the solution will also be taken care of in the various countries. So what is it actually that we're doing? First of all, we simplify the task of maintaining master data in the SAP environment. The way we do that is we provide the users with a new user interface, and only relevant fields for a particular user will be the ones that he has or she has to deal with. One other area that we are focusing highly on is automation. Today, you are maintaining your master data according to some business logic and some business definitions and business processes. All of that is dictating how you should maintain your master data. And so we can actually take these related or relations between fields and locations around in the world of your company. We can take all that and put that into MDS, the master data simplified solution we've got, and thereby automate things so that the user do not have to type in trivial things and fill in fields that could easily be automated. The other very important thing that we are looking at is governance, because let me put it in a frank way, people do not do what they're supposed to. We see that with all of our customers, that if people would just have done what they were supposed to, we would not have any problems. What we do with this, with our approach is that we assign a clear responsibility and a clear ownership of a single field that is to be maintained. And then we also define the complete process of who is going to do what when. So we simplify, we automate, and we put a very strong governance structure around it. That's basically what we do. So let's dive a little bit into how do we do that. First of all, I'd like to mention a few things around governance. Like, for instance, do you know what kind of rules you are creating a material according to? Maybe you can say yes to that. We know that we have, I don't know, a person, Mr. or Mrs. Smith. She has been with us for many, many years, 40 years, and she or he does it and is an expert in doing that. I do not doubt that at all. So that is probably true for creation. But is that also true for maintenance? And when you're maintaining the data on a daily basis after you've created it, are you then using the same rules according to which you created it? Here we also see a discrepancy in the way of maintaining the fields. So the answer is often no. And do we know these rules down to the very depth? Quite often we see a clear no to that one as well. And how do we ensure that in our company that we only maintain the fields that we are using in our company? Because there are more than 700 fields on the material master that you could potentially do something with in SAP. But you probably, an average is around 120 to 140 fields that a company normally uses. And what about the rest? They also have a logical meaning. And if you try to maintain these and do something about it, you will end up doing some bad things in your environment. What about the complete authorization? Who's allowed to create or maintain data? Do we have that under control? And for some, documentation is a very key thing to have that in place in order to comply with rules and legislations, etc. So everything around governance. I'm going to show you 3 slides now where I'm going to talk into how do we then deal with this governance related issues. So this picture here is simply, I'm trying to show how SAP out of the box gives us the capability of maintaining the master data. Each department do their own thing, so that production, they maintain their thing, sales, they do theirs, finance, they do theirs, and so on. Of course, this is swift. It is very fast because people, they can just maintain something that they want to change, but we lack control. That is absolutely clear. The often seen answer to this here is centralization. We need to centralize. And what we see that customers often do is that they create a central master data management department who is going to take care of everything. Well, we also know that is not going to happen, especially if you have more locations around in the world. It will not happen because there will still be a huge deal left locally to be maintained. So you will end up having a hybrid setup where some is dealt with on a central basis and the remaining part is still being dealt with on a local basis. So you're still not in control, even though you might get a bit more control of what you're actually doing here. But it's still not good enough. And often we see that these guys up there in the central master data management department, they will often become the bottleneck. So the combination of these two will obviously be the better choice. And that's what we do with MDS, RTMDS. So we create a central master data management department who actually dictates and gather all the processes of how do we operate in our company, reflect that into the system here, and thereby you get a master data management structure as well as the governance. We design the governance structure, who is going to do what, when, maintain what, when, and then people in the departments, they will actually maintain the data that are relevant to them. Nothing more than that. The sales guys, they will only maintain sales related fields. Production guys, they will only maintain production and so on. And that for their location only. So in that way, you keep the control, or you get in charge of your master data management, but you let the people where the knowledge actually is maintain the data on their own in a very governed way, in a very rigid way with the help of MDS. So let's dive a little bit into automation. How do we get things done without doing anything, at least for the end user? First of all, we look at all the fields that you as a company is using. Those we bundle into what we call profiles. We come with a template where we actually suggest a large number of profiles, and with our new development, we are also including some AI technology in order to determine the profiles and the logic according to which you are maintaining your master data. So if we look at the profiles here, behind each of these profile types here, you will find some logic. And in this case here, if we look at planning, for instance, in this case, I've got 3 ways of planning: A, B, and C. This could be make to order, make to stock, make to assembly. So behind the choice A, because the user will get the option to choose between A, B, and C, and behind A, I will then have default values set like this, that the MRP type is going to be PD and so on. That of course will increase the speed of my maintenance and my creation of the data. It will also ensure that I remember everything, that I do not forget some of the, the last ones on the list here. So it ensures quality and it speeds up the process. So this is good for creation, but I think it's even more important when you change. So if I change from A to B, then we often see that people, they tend to forget something down the list. They will just do, the easy ones, and then I could deal with the other ones later. So in that way, you'll reduce the amount of fields that the end user has to deal with. So quality is going up of the master data. So this is one way of how we can actually automate things. The other one is that we can actually derive a field value from other values of other fields. And we can even combine more fields together, like I've done in this case here. I've got the combination of 2 fields giving the result in a third one. If the procurement type is F and the material group is 1000, my MRP controller has to be 100. And if I change one of these, the third field here will then change. So this is the whole clue that we have around the automation logic, and we could get to some very crazy high numbers in terms of automation degree. I'll show you that in the end. If I'm just going to show you that in a different way, I've got two kinds of fields now. I'm going to create a material. One is red, one is green. The red one is manual entry, and the green ones, they are automatically derived from my logic. So first of all, I decide what is it that I'm going to create, and where do I want to create it, in which plant. So I type in these data here. From that, I can derive a field value, and this profile is derived by the combination of these two, the subtype and the location. And we just learned that profiles, they actually set field values. And I can derive another field based on the result here. Okay, I don't know everything up front. So when I've finished my work by entering these two fields, then a workflow task will be kicked off and somebody else will get some workflow task. We're using standard SAP workflows that we have enhanced in a way so that it's more easy to maintain and set up. So these people, they will then enter what they have to enter, and we can derive other field values. Here in this case is a profile, which then sets fields, and a profile is setting another profile, which then set fields, and other fields will be derived. I'm sure you get the picture now, that with a little bit of manual intervention, I'm actually able to complete the entire material master with the help of my rules. So also, if I'm not able to define a logic or a dependency between some fields, then I will just leave that field open for manual entry. So don't think that you need to strive or get all automation of all your processes in place before starting such a project. It's not needed. Okay, so I'm sure you get the picture. And if you think this is one location, you could even extend with automation and with the logic to other locations, so that I create one material in one plant and I'm automatically extending that to other locations. And it could also be that there are some manual effort, manual work that needs to be done in that new location. I'm showing that with the red fields over here as well. So this is automated extension, but you could also say, okay, I'll just manually extend it to another plant. Okay. So if we dive a little bit more into governance, I'm now creating a material again. So I'm the creator. When I've done my work, workflow task will be sent to those that we have defined who should get it next. And in this case, two parallel workflow streams are being kicked off, namely to production and to supply chain. And then after that, planning will be put in charge, and finance. And in this case, I'm asking for an approval that everything would have been filled in up till here is correct. So I'm just looking at it and judging whether it's right or wrong. If I say, no, it's still not good enough, we need to change here and there, then a workflow task will be sent to the department who's got something to do. And this one will of course circle until it is true. And after that, we'll send the data into the standard SAP tables. Until then, we're operating in a mirror set of the data. And then it's sent into the standard SAP tables. That also means that the solution is installed as an add-on to your ERP system in its own namespace. Okay, so if we think a little bit broader, because data, they're not always manually entered. They could come from somewhere, from a catalog, from a CAD system, from a PLM system, or even from other external sources, ERP systems. Imagine that we will we'll create a new material in a PLM system, for instance. Here we'll just create, or here we'll just define some of the basic data. We'll send that into the MDS system, and then we'll start enriching the entire material. We'll also do a validation check and a completeness check if things are filled in correctly, and also do a duplicate check in this case here. And I talked about the approval option that we have And if it's not true, it will simply loop until it's true, and then data will be sent into the system, into the standard SAP tables. And after that, we'll extend it to the relevant and dependent locations. What also could happen is that we could actually say that we could trigger the automated generation of a bomb, or trigger that routing should be maintained, or could also be if I decide very early in the PLM construction department that this is something that we are not going to produce ourselves, we're going to buy it outside. So by deciding that, I'm also deciding that the purchase department, they have to get active, and they will then get, in this case, they will then get a task in order to fill in the purchasing info record. So we can actually have relationships and dependencies between objects inside SAP as well. Everything is governed here with the governance logic inside MDS. What we are also capable of doing is that we can monitor the complete workflow process, and how long time, for instance, did we take to create a material? Why does it always take so long in a certain department? Do they lack manpower, or is our process even wrong? This monitoring tool is for the S4 environment, and it's very useful for that. Talking about S4, MDS will also support the journey to S4 from the ECC, in that you can actually install MDS on the ECC system and apply mandatory fields from S4 into your ECC environment, and then you can simulate your conversion, and out will come and fields that you have to deal with, and MDS can even help you by cleansing according to the new rule set that you will have in S4. So it will highly support your journey to S4 by cleansing and by simulation. So this is actually how it looks. It's built in WebDimper for ABAP, and so here you see a number of fields that this user have access to maintain, and you also see that some have a bracket here that shows the ownership and the responsibility of maintaining that particular field. Some have an asterisk, that means it's a mandatory field, and some are, for this user, are grayed out, means that this user cannot maintain the field, but somebody else may be able to, or it could also be that this particular field is maintained by a rule. Yeah, this is how it looks, and you can set up the access and visibility of the fields down to user level, down to user group level, as you wish. Quite often we see that people, they're stripping away quite a number of deals for the user, just to avoid distortion and errors. But I think why don't we just have a look at it, Lars? This is just a picture. Why don't we have a real life look at it?
Let's do so.
Yeah. Okay. I think you should have the presenter right now.
Yes.
Great.
And you should see my screen.
We do.
Great. Okay. Hi again, everyone. What you see now is I'm logged into SAP with the basic user that we use to start up our workflow. As Bo mentioned, MDS is installed on SAP with its own namespace, so everything operates with /MDS /. The start transaction here will open up the ITMDS front end in your browser. So what you will do when it comes to master data maintenance is done from this browser here. There's a couple of areas here that I would like to explain. First of all, we have the menu bar up here. In the menu, you can choose between create, change, display, and extend objects relatively to the transactions known from SAP. You have a button that takes you to your workflow inbox. In this here version, we are in an S/4HANA system, which means you can also switch to a business partner view. And then you have save request, cancel request, delete request, and send request, which all are navigators to either produce a workflow, to cancel a workflow, to delete a workflow entirely, or to send a workflow into SAP once it's complete. Next up, we have the objects and location part of the front end. This you always have to fill in to begin with. You have to choose your object type, whether it's material, info records, or if you move to the business partner view, whether you're working with a vendor business partner, a customer business partner. Then you have to choose a subtype. A subtype is related to a material type in SAP, but the key difference here is that we actually have the possibility of defining multiple subtypes per material type. And this gives us a possibility of defining very specific business rules for certain categories of products. Then you have your location part of it. The location ID is usually tied to the highest level of organizational structure. And from materials, this is usually a plant that we choose. So in this case, I'll choose a production DE 1010. This is plant 1010 in Germany. And then you have the location profile, which tells us something which is deeper into the organizational levels. So this could be storage locations or warehouse numbers and so on. This is all defined in the backend of the system. So now you have here a couple of tabs with an asterisk, and you have some without. An asterisk indicates that we have mandatory data on these tabs, which you need to fill out. So on the first tab here for text, I need to maintain my material description. So what I do is I press new, and then I can write in my text. And then when I press enter, the system recognizes that that there's input, and now the asterisk disappears from the tab. We can then move to the next, which is the global tab. Global indicates that we're now talking about global data, meaning that if this material would exist on multiple locations, the data from this tab would always be identical across all the locations. Now you see two columns. One is for fields and one is for profiles. The rule of thumb is that you always maintain your profile to begin with, because a profile can set multiple values with one click. In this instance, I have three options to choose between from. And this here profile is not as much a data maintenance profile, but more a profile of how should my workflow process look in the end. Meaning that when I choose environmentally relevant, you'll see in the bottom left here that an X will be inputted in the relevant field. And this means once my data set is complete, I will be required to have approval of this material. So now that I've chosen my profile, I can begin maintaining my fields. You can use simply your keyboard to insert the values. In S/4HANA, there's a fuzzy search help known from SAP. You can also use your F4 to see the F4 search help, just as in SAP. This is taken from SAP, but there's a touch to this here specific field, namely that in ITMDS, there's a possibility to, for certain types of materials on certain for a type of material on a type of location, you can limit the F4 search help so that the user only has 7 values to choose from rather than more than 500 values to choose from. So you can just click that value and it's inserted in the field, and now you can navigate with the tab button, for instance, to the next field that is mandatory, choose a value and hit enter. Now that asterisk from the field, the bold text disappeared and the asterisk from the tab disappeared as well, meaning that we now have complete data on the global tab. And we're now actually done with the data on for this user. So what we have to do is we have to produce a workflow in order for the next user to grab this. And that is done when I press the Save Request button. And what I do here is that I save the data in our mirror set of the SAP tables. And we actually also reserve a material number. So down here you see a message saying that a request for object number 1451 has been saved. This means that there now is a workflow for that material number. I say we reserve it because that material is not yet saved in SAP. We have simply reserved it from the number range in SAP. So now I'll log in with the next user. The same goes, I start up the application, but this time rather than filling in data, I will go to my workflow inbox. And now you see here that I have a request for an incomplete object type material. It's the same object number, and down here you see information in regards to what is the ownership that is still missing data, what location type, what location is it, and so on. So you mark the line and you hit the execute button, and you're then taken into the workflow that was produced by the previous user. Now what you see is another view of the tabs, because this user is only allowed to do local and classification. So again goes the rule of thumb, always choose your profiles. Here we have a sourcing profile, we have a make profile, and we have a planning profile. And as Bo showed in one of his slides, one profile can actually derive another. So I'm going to choose a sourcing profile from plant 1010, which is the same plant that I am creating the material on. This means that a rule for the make profile will be chosen, namely that it's produced internally. And now we simply have to choose a planning profile. And here you'll see that that when I choose make to order, lot size EX will be inserted. So now we only have the ABC indicator left. In this field here, we have another rule that will go into place. So when I insert the value A, the bold text, as with the other fields, would disappear and the field is complete. But when I press enter, you'll see that I get an error message, so to speak, to alert the user that because you used value A in an ABC indicator, the fixed lot size is now mandatory. This is what we call a dependent mandatory field. So I'll insert a value, and now the local tab is complete. So we move on to the classifications tab. Here we have a rule that has defaulted this material class to this type of materials. It looks similar to what you know from SAP, but the benefit here is that you have the possibility of creating dependent value rules, as Bo explained them in his presentation, for classifications as well, meaning that when I choose a value from the F4 search help here, for this particular characteristics, then the material type is automatically derived. Again, you see that the asterisks has been removed from the tabs, meaning that the data is complete. But now I get a message saying that approval is required. Please select save request and send it for approval. So now I send it to my third and my final user. Hit save request. Now we simply update our mirror set of tables with the data currently filled in. I'll log in to my last user. And repeat the steps of opening up the product or the tool. Go to my workflow inbox. And now I see I have a request for approval for this here particular material number. Hit the execute button. And now you can take a look at all the data, but you cannot change anything because it's in the approval step. So I can check the material text. I can check what has been done on the global tab, on classification, on local as well. And then finally, I can see, okay, this material is complete. Let's just check the dependencies to other locations. So what we have here is a tick marker for 3 other locations. And what this means is once this here material is complete, the system will automatically extend it to these 3 locations. And depending on your business rules setup, they will either be automatically created because there was no workflow, everything was derived automatically, or it's set up in a way that mandatory fields has to be filled out for these particular locations, and thereby workflows are produced in order for the users to finalize the creations of these. You can also see there's a tick marker for the bill of material here. For the sake of this webinar, we will not be demonstrating that. But if you fill out data on the bill of materials tab over here, a bill of material would automatically be created in SAP based on the input from ITMDS. Now I will send the data to SAP, and I'll do so by the send request button up here. You see that the save request button has now been grayed out, and the send request button is now available. You could also press reject in order to send it back in the flow to one of the previous ownerships for them to redo the work. So I'll press send request, and now we will get a message, hopefully saying that this material has been created successfully in SAP. It was. So we can now go back to SAP. We can go into MM03, insert the material number, and perhaps take, we can take these organizational levels or these views. Do an F4 search help on the plant, and you'll see that this material was actually created on all 4 plants rather than just the one I chose in the very beginning of the material creation. So this is what the dependent locations do for us. Right. So how do we actually implement IT.MDS Master Data Simplified? What we do is that we take all your knowledge from your master data organization, your organization in general, we put that into ITMDS. What we then do is we take your governance structure, the processes around maintaining master data, and we input that into our setup as well. This is done in some table maintenance. And when this is done, you have your final ITMDS set up and it being ready to go. We of course supply you with a template set of fields and business rules, etc., that we can work from, so that you don't have to start from scratch. But what we have now also developed is a feature that can accelerate this process. What we've developed is a tool we call ITMDS rule generation and analysis. And with this tool, we can accelerate the part of the project that is talking with our customers about the business rules and the processes of maintaining data. It is based on the existing master data in your system. It's an embedded analytics platform, and it has rule analysis, dependent rule analysis based on AI and machine learning that we use to generate statistically founded business rules that may very well not have been found by the consultant or by the clients working on the project. So why do we do this? We do this to support, or why have we developed this? We've developed it to support implementation projects and to ensure rapid implementation. We already have a very rapid implementation period compared to certain other MDM tools, but this will increase that even further. And we've done it to ensure an easy and understandable overview of your existing master data, but also the future master data you will have, because we will generate a simple but profound level of master data maintenance rules, which will maximize the automation of the front end, which you just saw me working in. And we do this with embedded analytics and AI. There's a guided procedure for it, and everything adheres to the ITMDS rule framework, meaning that all the analysis that we do is based on ITMDS and produces results that are directly replicable into the database of ITMDS where the business rules are stored. So how does this look? Right now it works in a browser as well. There's a couple of steps. We start a project. Our customer delivers the data and defines the locations that I chose in the front end for their project, which is required for the analysis of master data. We then upload the data, and we then have three possibilities of rule analysis. One is a field analysis, one is a profile analysis, and the final is the dependent values analysis. When we load this type of data, for materials in particular, there are certain required tables, as you see out here, which is required because we need a certain foundation of data before we do anything. You select your files, you upload them, and then finally you load the data, where the data is validated and it's transformed into data that can be analyzed by the machine behind it. So moving to the field analysis, we have embedded analysis here in the front end, but for the sake of demonstration and the ease of the overview, I will move to the actual application that does the calculations behind. And since we don't want to use too much time, I have created a bookmark here that has a selection of fields that we can show. So what I've done is that I have a filter for one plant from this data set, and we have a location type, which is a setting from ITMDS, and then we have these fields over here to the left. And what it tells us is that there's a total counter of 12,048, and this field BSTMI is used on all 12,048 materials. Going down the list, you can see that some deviate a bit when it comes to the field density, but in general, the fields are in use. Then obviously there are certain fields which are not in use, and here certain statistical thresholds are used. So in this particular case, there is actually, it says it's not in use because there's so few materials with this field maintained. And then finally, based on the mandatory threshold up here to the right, it indicates whether or not this field should be used as a mandatory field in ITMDS. What you can do is you can click one of the fields, and it'll then over here to the right go down and analyze on the material types, meaning that of course globally or across all different material types a field could be mandatory, but what about for a selection of material types? Is that actually statistical representative as well? And here you see that, for example, for the DN material type, this field is actually not mandatory. So this analysis here is something that is done in the project usually by hand, going into Excel, etc. And here we have a tool that can produce all of it for us. Now I'll go to the profile analysis. And again, I have prepared a bookmark for us to use. So what I've taken is I've taken finished goods and semi-finished goods material types. We still have the production location type, and we still have the BP01 plant. A profile, as Bo mentioned, was a set of values. So here you see from different fields. So here you see the 3 fields. And those 3 fields are then shown with all the different combinations that exist in SAP. So again, based on statistical thresholds or numerical thresholds, we produce these numbers out here, and it indicates to us what kind of profiles should be available and with what fields in your IT.MDS setup. But it also shows us some outliers or some deviations in the data. So for example, down here we have a DISMM value of M0. But what is that material actually? Now, for this instance, it's a test material, but it could be an outlier in your system from old times that hadn't been cleaned up as such in your system. And you can then navigate up here to the right with the arrows to your next profile type. It'll keep the bookmark, and now you can analyze your sourcing profile and again see what type of profiles should be available for your material maintenance setup in ITMDS. Finally, there's a dependent values analysis. This takes some time to run, so I have prepared it in an Excel document. But what it allows you to do is to play with different confidence levels and rule thresholds, and it produces a sheet like this, where you, with confidence, here can say that in 99% of the cases, this material type finished product should have purchasing group H04 on this specific plant with this specific material group. And this is again then automatically supplied to us directly in the project, rather than finding this logic by analyzing data from extracting it from SAP in hand. So that is our new tool, and this is a great accelerator that we are very excited to start using with all of you.
Thank you
Back
very
to you,
much,
Bo.
Lars. Yeah, thank you very much. This obviously shows how efficiently we are able to find the logic, your business processes, and the way you have dealt with the maintenance of your master data. So, how long time does it take to implement such a solution here? Typically, our customers will spend about 30, 40, 50 days with us of consulting days. And the first thing we will do is implement the whole governance structure, get the ownership and responsibilities assigned. We'll put in the workflows that will take place. We will also put in some high level automations based on the templates and the low-hanging fruit, so to say, and then we will start applying the AI technology that Lars just walked through. So this is a fairly new thing that we have, and I must be honest with you and say that we have had hundreds of sessions with people, with customers who actually liked what they saw. They liked MDS, but then they thought, hey, we need to analyze ourselves. We need to get ourselves sorted out. We need to find our logic ourselves. We want to do that. But with the help of this AI solution that we've developed, we're actually able to do that within a few days, very, very short time. And thereby we can get you up and running with MDS, get your governance structure in place, get your automation level to an even higher degree than what we could do just by consulting you. So we can get up and running very, very fast. So the AI tool will also apply to existing customers, MDS customers. I know there are some existing customers on the call here, as well as for the new MDS customers. So if I should just give an example of a customer, it all started back in 2006 with Nilfisk, and we developed the solution over a year. What we did in the very beginning is that we calculated the number of fields that they were maintaining globally. And we came up to this number here, 3,615. This is not an odd high number. It's quite a normal number for this kind of company, a discrete manufacturing. So we developed MDS and implemented it. And after that, we were actually able to drive this number down to 199 fields that they are now maintaining manually back in 2007. So what also happens when you implement MDS is that people, they start thinking in logic and rules. So I always type in an FD, or I always type in a 10 here. Couldn't it be derived from somewhere? That's the thinking that people, they start doing. So over time, they were actually able to even improve the 199 manual entries down to 19 fields. So you see that this automation degree is crazy high, and yes, it is one of our best cases, but we have many in the late 90s, and very, very fast we will get to 80 plus, 85, 80, in 80s percent, and fast thereby I mean weeks, few weeks of the implementation. Okay, we got some others. They're also up at the end, but I think this is basically what we would share with you, what we intend to share with you. And I know that we have some questions that have popped up during the session here. Lars, maybe you can help answering some of these questions. Let me just, I'll just walk through very fast here. Is this relevant for R3 and S4? I believe we have answered that. It is relevant for both. Maybe 1/3 of our customers are on S4. Is this relevant for other platforms, SRM and CRM systems? Basically, this is for enriching master data in your SAP ERP environment, but we can integrate to others in that it is installed on the SAP system. What else do we have down here? There's a question about, is it only possible to work in the Internet Explorer? So you said yes to that, Lars. What else do we have? I'm not sure. Can you pick one of the questions down here, Lars? Oh yeah, there's one down here saying, talking about some of our colleagues in out there, namely SAP with MDG. Yes, you can do a lot with the MDG, but for sure you cannot get up and running as fast as you can with MDS. And there might be a discussion on the pricing here as well. So to the person who asked that question, I'm happy to take a discussion with you. I'm not shy to believe that we will end up succeeding here.
Yeah, and then there's something about preparing custom rules to prepare these analysis. Yes, the intent is that if you, as an existing customer, have a rule set up, this tool will be able to compare your existing rules to what the database actually suggests that you do, meaning that you'll go to a final state where everything should be in place.
Okay. Then there's the next one. The next question is the question around the objects that we cover with the solution. We talked a lot about the material master. We do that because we know that that's the most complex one to maintain. That's where they struggle the most. It's also where you would have the highest payback on the solution, where you get most sorted with the help of ITMDS. Natively in the solution, we are able to maintain master data of material master, business partner, purchasing info records, but you're also able to include all other objects basically into the governance workflow of MDS, so that you'll be in charge, you will be in control with the governance structure inside MDS. Yeah,
finally,
the AI, yeah, maybe the AI functionality, yes, it's an own solution that or module, if you like.
And we are positioning it in two ways: as a way to look at your old rules if you're an existing customer, to do a kind of sanity check, and for a new customer as an accelerator, as already explained.
Okay, just a final question came in here. Is a maximum materials number that you can process in one process? There's no maximum of materials that we can deal with. If you think of the dependencies that you can build in, is there a maximum of dependencies between fields, Lars, that we can?
Dependency between fields, no. When it comes to processing of actual material numbers, there are possibilities of mass changes, etc., with no maximum at the current moment. And then another question from Maria No, who asks, can you maintain more than one material at the same time at the same screen? And that's not possible. It's maintenance of one material number at the same time in the front end that I demonstrated.
Okay, so I think we have reached the 1 hour now. And I'd like to thank you, everyone, for attending this session. You will be able to get to see the session here as we have recorded it, so you'll be able to get a replay of it. Thank you very much, and have a great day. Thank you.